So, Athletic reports that today Man United have stopped talking to Jackson, which means they were serious about this thing, and the only reason they have stopped talking about it is because either Jackson has refused the advancement or the pricing was just beyond what they were willing to afford. Now, before we talk about the issue, I want to give you several scenarios so that we can really evaluate this situation. Now, let's go back to 2018. 2018, Arsenal was signing Aubameyang. Giroud was 31 years. They were done with him. He was only playing he had only played he had only started one Premier League match, and he was down the pecking order, and they were bringing another striker. So they sold him to him in January. That's 6 months into the season. Not 6 months, 4 months into the season, they sold him to us. In that season, Giroud scored the goal that took us to final in FA, where we won 1-0 against Man United. 1.5 seasons later, Giroud was also instrumental in that final in Baku. He scored a goal, Hazard 2. We won against Arsenal. Now, let's come near. 2023. Barcelona sold Dembele to PSG. They were done with him. He was not scoring. He was not doing a lot. They were just done. 1 year later, he was the person who scored a goal in Camp Nou and a goal in Paris to knock out Barcelona from Champions League. 2 years later, he won the Champions League with PSG. Now, on better scenarios, Benzema in Real Madrid was supposed to be sold earlier on, very early on, because people are complaining that he was not converting the chances. He was not playing as he should, even suggesting that people like Isco should be the one playing that false nine or something like that. But Real Madrid just decided that they were not going to sell Benzema. Some years later, 3 to 4 years later, Ronaldo is out of the club. Benzema is the one winning them the league. Benzema is winning the Ballon d'Or. Now, again, they nearly sold Vinicius because people are complaining he's just running around. He's not doing anything. He changes his game. Some years later, he's the one instrumental in them winning the Champions League. Now, those are 4 scenarios of people who sold the players before they picked and how it affected them. And not just them, the team where they went. And people who retained the players when they knew they were quality, but they lacked 1 or 2 things that they were working on, and how it rewarded them. Now, in this scenario, we have Nicolas Jackson. We all know, if you ask anybody, he will tell you that Nicolas Jackson is quality. It just lacks, and I've said it a lot of time, and I've been complaining. I've said, even last season, I was complaining that this guy, we have given him enough chances. We have given him 2 years of play every week getting a game, and he's not doing what we are supposed to do. But it's because we are rating him on very, 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 very high KPIs, like performance index. Because last year, he scored 14 goals. If you look at the strikers that have scored 14 goals in top 5 leagues, you're not going to get more than 10. Even 5. Okay, you might get 5, but not 10. And if you compare the names, it will be like people like Salah, Haaland, I don't know who, will be bigger names. Meaning, even as much as we are complaining, Jackson is not that bad. Like, he might be losing chances because we are creating a lot of chances, but if you compare him to other strikers, he's not that bad. And the fact that we want to sell him is because we have Pedro and Delap. Now, not. Pedro was the second striker, was not the first choice striker for Brighton last season. He wasn't the first choice striker for Brighton last season. You have to note that. Delap was playing in a team that was relegated. You have to note that. Now, there's something, if you're going to make a very, very data or analysis on people, you have to consider certain nuances that are not just data driven, that are, you know, when you see a coach make decision, it's expert insight. Yeah, those are what we call expert insight. And when you're making all these decisions about players, about things, you have to really, really consider expert insight. And an expert insight from Brighton, from the coach, was that Pedro last year was not a person he would consider as his first choice. You have to ask a question why before you start making him thinking that is going to be the is going like we are going to depend on him every time, like you have to put all our eggs on that single basket. You have to consider, like, why did that coach or the technical bench or everybody in that club decide that Pedro was not their first choice. The second thing, we have to consider also, as much as Delap was playing in a not so good team, why wouldn't he have inspired or helped him? I know this it's very far fetched. Now people will say, like, you're going too far, like you are trying to make an agenda. But it's the truth. If you have to be depended on as a striker in a title winning club, in a club that is contending for the title, you should have done something extraordinary. You should have inspired, helped, scored goals that will allow even your team to not play good, to not play better than the rest, to survive relegation, to win. Because if you're going for 35 points, you have to score certain games to allow your team to get to 45. If you are not, it means that there's a period, you might be quality, but there might be some period of inconsistencies. And for both Pedro and Delap. And you have to consider that before just putting all our baskets on these guys. If we are to judge Delap and Pedro on the same scale that we are judging Nicolas, then we'll find there's not a huge differences in the past. Like in last season performance, there's not some huge differences if you are to rate them on the same scale. So for a club, we have to be careful when selling him, because right now we are not selling to a contender, like a direct competitor. He's a direct competitor, but he's not Liverpool, he's not Man City, he's not Arsenal. But again, it has been proved that a striker can move from Newcastle to Liverpool very quick with no issue. Isak has moved from Newcastle, is moving from Newcastle to Liverpool. What if Jackson performs so well and in 2 years, while Man United will have probably recover, the same Jackson is in 2 years is playing for Man United and we are going against him and he's scoring like he's the Benzema, is the 2022 Benzema, or even just slightly worse. It will be again, the Salah, the De Bruyne situation. And I wish as a club we should try as much as we can to avoid those situations. And people are saying that even if you're selling, even if you are willing to sell, if they are meeting our, our asking price, we have to consider things like buyback clause. I know people are saying that Nicolas is already 24. Why would you put a buyback clause? But Keller, Liverpool put a buyback clause on Keller, and he was going to 25. Or we could have certain clauses such that Newcastle cannot sell Jackson to another Premier League in a certain amount of years, probably 3 years, probably 4 years. Like as a club, we have to protect ourselves. If we can't keep him, if we can't keep him, we have to protect ourselves by making sure that we don't bolster, bolster the competition. We don't give the competition things that they are going to use against us. And the thing is, Jackson has not been stubborn. I'm not sure. I'm not there. I haven't seen news. I'm not part of the club, so I may not know. But from every news, from every rumor, from every their agents, their families, they are willing to fight, which means they are willing to play as squad players. As long as if they improve, they have to be taken back to first in play. Now, if Chelsea wants to go to for Garnacho, and Garnacho's history has shown him having issues with Man United because of time, because he thinks probably it's better than the strikers. Why should we take all these players? Like we have Xavi Simons, we have Gittens, we have George, and now we are bringing Garnacho, and we think they will not have issues. But we think that for Dela, for Pedro, and for Nicolas Jackson, they will have issues, that we have to sell Jackson. If we have to do something, I think we should retain Jackson and not go for Garnacho. That's my point. But if you are getting Garnacho and selling Jackson, we should be able to protect us through a buyback clause and certain clauses that limit us giving gems to our competitors. That's what will help this team. If we're not doing that, then we probably have an issue. Good day.